Hey there everybody, it's that time of year again. I'm back with another Halloween themed episode featuring yet another line of Stretchy monster toys. Because hey, it's tradition!
Tradition! Tradition!
Or something. Or at least it's a tradition until I run out of lines to talk about. Let's hope that never happens. So we'll get down to the spooky scary and take a closer look at these right after this.
Electronic Morphman.
Lockjaw! Rockster! Cascade!
They stretch. They morph.
Ew!
They unmorph.
Whoa!
And they don't get along so good.
Got him!
And when you make a morph, things really get freaky. So bend them, stretch them, and fight them again.
Oh yeah! You lose, pal!
Electronic Morphman. 3 bad dudes who get a whole lot badder. Electronic Morphman morph when you pump them. Each sold separately.
Okay, so we're back with the Royal Deluxe Stretchy Monster line. And all I can say is, you got a lot of balls to call this Royal Deluxe. Now, I think most of you that are familiar with my content, with my videos, know that I don't like to be critical of things, and I generally tend to point out the more positive aspects of the items that I'm looking at, even if they aren't super fancy, high-end items, extra pricey items, even if they are super cheap, bargain-type products, I still try to see the positives, see the good points, see the upside of whatever I'm reviewing. But with these, it's gonna be kinda hard. I mean, these designs, guys. Design-wise, these have to be some of the weakest offerings I've ever seen. In some aspects, just puzzling. Now, you know I like a wolf man, right? I'm partial to a werewolf. I think they're really cool, but I almost feel kind of insulted by this by this werewolf that they've put out. This puzzling, lopsided, rage-filled, possibly drunken face on this guy. Just very strange. This is less terrifying werewolf and more Harry Wolfman, your next-door neighbor about 6 brewskis in, berating you for the leaves in your yard, blowing into his yard, or some other autumnal infraction, some other October-centric dispute. And this one right here, yeah, it's kind of passé, it's kind of uncool to refer to someone as a Karen, but it kind of looks like somebody took a photo of a Karen going ballistic and shouting at the manager and mapped it onto the face of an angry gorilla. And that was the mold they went with. Again, just a very weird design that I can't quite figure out why they thought this was a good idea. But just about everything about this line is really weird. So much of it doesn't seem like it even fits together. I mean, do you see what I'm saying here? Do these figures really look like they belong together in the same line? I don't. They're similar, but they're also different enough to make it just feel like they're all kind of out of place. Maybe they just used whatever molds they could get a hold of, they could legally get access to, or maybe not, you never know. And at a distance, you'd almost think that these two were the same figure, were the same design, but when you get in a little closer, you see the differences. And they're probably two of the most alike, but still just so strange, and so not as good, and so not as good as other lines that we've seen before. And then this particular one is the only one I've seen that has I guess you can't really call it a repaint, obviously, more of a remold, but in a very different color. Kind of has a Ben Grimm thing going on here. Maybe even a Secret Wars era of Ben Grimm. Wasn't he extra bumpy around that time? Kind of looks like if The Thing and Dragon Man had a baby. I don't really know if I want to think about the logistics of that, especially considering one of them is an android. So yeah, I don't know how that would work. But yes, this one appears to be the only one that has been molded in a different color. So that's kind of strange. Maybe it would have been nice if this had been molded in a brown color as well. So then you could have your Sasquatch and your Yeti, and maybe even in a black fur. So then you could have your gorilla from Murders in the Rue Morgue or something like that. Or maybe I'm overthinking this because I'm not sure if anyone would be that interested in collecting just the whole entire line as it is, let alone in any and all potential variants. So maybe I'm giving these a little bit too much credit, but you never know, somebody might like these. But compared to many of the superior lines of stretchy monsters, I don't see how. I think you'd be better off to get one of those lines instead. So I picked these up at Menards of all places, and I'm pretty sure that's the only place I've seen them at. I could be wrong there. Now there is one in particular that I actually do like, although it also helps to showcase how different and strange and seemingly out of place all these figures are, and that's this guy. The package is looking a little dusty there.
Phrasing?
Poor choice of word. Anyway, I think some of the main selling points of why I like this one are because it seems more proportioned, like it would fit in with other figure lines a little bit better than some of these bulkier ones, and also because he kind of reminds me of Mumbo Jumbo from the Silverhawks, maybe mixed with Bully from Dr. Katz, and maybe a little bit of Tabasco. Does anybody remember Tabasco? Anyway, we're gonna crack this guy open and take a look at it. You may have noticed the black gloves. I remembered to wear them this time. I don't trust the contents of some of these figures sometimes. I know that sounds a little paranoid, but for all I know, they filled it with radioactive sand, used to clean up toxic waste or something like that. Oh, he's spilling already. Now, I was about to say he feels pretty sturdy, although flimsy at the same time. But then, the moment I squeezed him, a little bit of his innards are puffing out his shoulder. So now I'm extra concerned. He is quite, oh, well. So yeah, that was unexpected. I was not planning on that to happen. He doesn't seem to be leaking anywhere else, but that shoulder, he's just spilling his guts out. Kind of shocking, to be honest. And a shame. It would have to happen to my favorite one.
Bully, what? How?
My only complaint about Bully is that his horns and hooves aren't painted black, but that's okay. He also seems to have a lot less attention to detail put into him. Some of the other ones have more paint and things like that in different areas, eyebrows and things like that. He does not have, so that's very weird. And as you notice, he's also a lot smoother than the other ones. So once again, making him stand out even further from the other figures. So that's just plain weird. Yeah, it's a real darn shame about Bully Tabasco. He was my favorite. I do want to open another one just to see if something similar happens to that one, like I'm expecting him to stand. So I think I'm going to go with Not Ben Grimm over here. A little less care taken in opening that one up. Yeah, I have mangled this guy beyond recognition. Yeah, I don't think he's going back to his original shape anytime soon. Definitely feels sturdier than the previous one. I think that thicker texture on the outside helps him maintain his structural integrity a little bit more. But yeah, definitely squishes up not so good. I don't know if he's going to snap back into his original shape. Probably going to take a lot of maneuvering. Maybe he'll eventually gradually shift back on his own, but my hopes aren't high. And no underwear. That's pretty gross too. But Grim Dragon Man likes to go commando, apparently. Good abs, though. Definitely been doing some crunches. And yeah, as you can see, he's not spilling his guts, so to speak, all over the tablecloth here. So that's a plus. And now the inevitable comparisons, although it doesn't really even seem fair at this point. Here's our good buddy, glow-in-the-dark ghost. I swear he glows in the dark. I know I haven't been able to prove that on camera, but trust me on this. The designs of this line were generally cooler. If you remember that video, if you watched that video, if you haven't watched that video, might I recommend you go check it out. Yeah, he is definitely very floppy in comparison, but it's still a cool design, and the glow-in-the-dark feature is very cool. So already he has that as a leg up on this guy, on this line. And then of course there's the Squish Monster line, our buddy Gregory, whatever. Gregory, just a better put together design all around. A generic Hulk meets Frankenstein design, but still by far a lot better than this one. I hate to be mean, but it's true. But yeah, unfortunately for the Royal Deluxe Stretchy Monster, this is just an all-around better design and better line. That's unfortunate for these guys. They were pretty cheap, probably about half the price of one of these, fairly cheap, and it shows. So yeah, just plain not as good, but I really wasn't expecting them to be. So really wasn't expecting them to be on the same level. So there's that. So for just a little bit of fun, and speaking of Gregory,
reminds me of a young Edvard Grieg.
check this out. It's the gigantic, the super huge Grigori Squish Monster figure. If you remember the Squish Monster video, which if you haven't watched it, I recommend checking that out also. But if you watched that video, you recall that I brought this figure up, but there was no way I was gonna pay 40 bucks online to get it. And then one day, while scrolling through a Dollar General looking for another one of those tanks from my previous video, from the tank video, I just happened to see this guy up on the top shelf. And he was only 25 bucks, which is still kind of pricey, but not nearly as bad as 40, 45 bucks or whatever he was on Amazon. That's about the only place I saw him. So imagine my surprise when I walked into Dollar General and happened to look up on a top shelf and there's this box sitting sideways. So yeah, pretty cool. And he is indeed, as the box says, super big.
Big, McLarge, huge.
But yeah, he is indeed massive. His eyes might be a little bit creepier on this version than the normal size version. Yikes, look at that. Yeah, so definitely pretty crazy. Check out that size difference. Now this would normally be the portion of the video where I ask, is this something you would add to your collection? Is this something you would want to pick up? But I honestly can't see why anyone would. Again, I hate to be harsh, but hey, it does look like our guy kind of bounced back there in the interim. Like I said, maybe if you needed some extra stretchy figures for your kids' other figures to beat up on, I don't know. That's about the only reason I can think of. These are, like I say, hate to be hateful. Hate to be mean, but these are pretty subpar in comparison to a lot of the other lines, to a lot of similar lines like this. So as I mentioned, even though these are about half the price of other similar figures, I just don't think they're worth it unless you need some throwaway cannon fodder for something else, for some other project, for some other reason. And as we've seen with Bully, which I'm still really upset about, as we saw with Bully, I'm not sure I trust the structural integrity, the quality of these figures for reasons that we saw. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think of them. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on these. I'd just like to hear from you guys in general. That'd be neat. So, as always, thank you very much for watching the video. I appreciate that very, very much. I appreciate you. Happy Halloween, of course. And until next time, I will see you.
Who or what could stand up to it? Hey, look! Another one!